Hey YouTube, video 2 of 2 for tonight. If you're interested in what might have talked about in the other video, then it wasn't tech related, just FYI, but feel free to check out my channel. I uploaded a video on Thursday, I believe, or I made it, and I think Thursday last week, about how Windows 11 is just fine, stop complaining about Windows 10 going end of life. And I thought I did okay. It was fine, actually, great. But I feel like there are a few people in that comment section that either didn't understand, didn't watch the video all the way through to understand, or they simply just don't care. And I don't know. They made some dumb comments that I feel like maybe I should explain better, but I felt like that video was self-explanatory, but we're going to go into this topic even harder now. A little bit. And for those of you just joining and you're like, what the hell are you even talking about? I've never seen your videos before in my life. Ignore everything I just said and just enjoy. Alright, so let's talk about Microsoft Windows in general. Not like a specific version. Let's talk about it in general, right? I think you need to get rid of it. And when I say you, if you're CEO of the company, don't know why you watch my video right now, but cool, hey, maybe you'll like this shit. If you're an IT manager of any kind, or if you're just a normal plain Jane tinkerist at home, I think you need to get rid of Windows. Completely. Furthermore, I think you should get rid of all Microsoft services entirely and start switching to open source variants. Those of which do exist, they are as good. And you just need to get over yourself and move to these things and stop acting like Microsoft is good for you, because they're not at all. You see, this sounds like crazy talk when I say it. And I think that's the problem, though. I think we have put Microsoft on this pedestal that doesn't matter who you are at this point. Most people still accept that Microsoft cannot be competed with, which is, especially now, so incredibly far from the truth. It's not even funny. It's just not. It's just, honestly, it's kind of weird that y'all think that. Whatever. So Microsoft is just a software company, guys. And what I mean, why I'm even saying that is because, again, y'all are putting them on a pedestal. I don't understand why at this point. Well, I do. So I understand your bullshit reason. You're like, oh, well, we've had them for the last 30 years. Of course, we're going to keep using their garbage software. Okay. I sort of understand that. You know, you've been loyal to a company for all this time. You want to keep a decent relationship with them. Maybe. I don't think that's the case anymore. But maybe. Or you're like, well, they've worked for us all along. Our ecosystem is basically built in Microsoft now. We kind of want to have a choice. Yeah, I think that's probably the biggest reason. But here's the problem: is your reasoning is falling short of goddamn logic at this point. So, if we go back to 2001 or even 1998. You'd be basically okay with that reasoning. For Microsoft built the Windows operating system, their Windows Server OS, Active Directory, Microsoft Exchange for email, all those products, and eventually 365. Years later, to answer the cloud, problem, whatever for them. They built all these things to be easy to use. They're not hard products to use. Microsoft markets on the idea that their products are easy to use. So if you're an expert in Windows or an expert in Active Directory or an expert in Exchange, that's like saying you're an expert at driving a car down the road. It's not supposed to be hard to use. I mean, sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, it can be there's architectural skills in that. I realize I'm shit talking my own career right now, and even my own job per se, but it's true. I mean, there's this. It's not really that hard to manage. It's very easy. To be honest with you, it's so easy that I was able to learn how to use it and manage it just by using it. I hardly had to read much up on it. Just by playing around with it, it made sense to me because Microsoft designed it to be easy. When it comes to their operating system, when it comes to their, whatever, because back in the day, especially, and that's how they came to be the powerhouse they are, that we know, is because there was, for the longest time, Microsoft was the only software company on the block doing what Windows and Microsoft Office and Microsoft Exchange and Windows Server was doing. There weren't really any other good solutions that just had the support and the overwhelmingly easy to use nature that Microsoft had for the longest time. And so, yeah, for a while it was a no-brainer. You're going to have to use Microsoft products because everybody else is. But that's run away now, right? Now it's just still you have to use Microsoft products because everybody else is. Or that's at least the thinking behind it, right? Or you have to use Microsoft products because your ecosystem's built on it, or honestly now, here's the real reason that you have to use Microsoft products. You're scared to learn anything else. You don't want to learn Linux. You don't want to learn how to configure a Samba server in Linux. You don't want to learn how to, I don't know, like host a web server on Linux or any of the numbers of shit you might do with Windows Server. I don't know, man. What about, a domain controller? I'll be honest, yeah, that's probably one area where we haven't fully built a system yet where Linux could really solve that issue. So maybe that is the one thing that I know of anyway. I don't know. But if there's people that say in your bolt full shit that we have solutions for that, let me know. But here's the thing. And if we don't really have a competing solution for that, I feel like you wouldn't be very hard to make one at this point. Why? Because Microsoft Active Directory services are dog shit. Dog shit. Why? Because Microsoft wants to push everybody to using Intune. But Intune doesn't do everything I need it to do. That's the case for a lot of people. So therefore, they keep their old Active Directory servers around, their on-prem domain controllers, syncing with the 365 cloud, like my organization does, by the way, that I work for. Because the hybrid system, I guess it's called, because they sort of have to. They're kind of forced to. Microsoft is depreciating all of their old stuff, and they haven't even moved on to they will just use Intune, use the new Outlook, use Windows 11, but you guys haven't provided the features I need in these new solutions, so I can't just up and switch. And Microsoft fucking knows this. That's why they haven't actually deprecated Active Directory yet. In fact, they've updated it with Windows Server 2025. They're not going to deprecate these things because they know deep down, behind marketing bullshit, they don't have solutions for this. But and you know what? What's even hilarious? They're not gonna fix these problems. Microsoft, again, let's go back to the Windows 10 argument, right? Why are you all sticking to Windows 10? Why are you all upset that Windows 10 is going end of life? And Windows 11 apparently is so much worse. When I ask that question or when I say something like that, I'm not sitting here saying that Windows 11 is great. I completely disagree that Windows 11 is good. I think it's okay. I think it's a decent OS for Windows build compared to other clusterfucks you've dealt with in the past. But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Microsoft has fucked up so horribly so many times now that Windows 11 in my mind is actually okay compared to previous unholy fuck-ups that Microsoft has done. But yet, Microsoft has proven that the last decade plus, they have just a horrible track record. They can't do anything right there right now. Every time Microsoft, they're constantly changing the 365 layout. They're constantly changing admin tools in 365. With Windows 11, they just constantly add more spyware and bullshit to the OS. You know, I don't feel safe running 11 I said that in my last video. I don't feel safe running Windows 11 on my home computer. I think it's a bad move. If you can get away from Windows, get away from Windows. If you can get away from 365, get away from 365. Hell, screw open source software. If Google Workspace. That's what I personally use for my small stuff. And I know you're thinking, oh Ben, that's no better. Actually, it is. Google actually does have in terms of service that they don't sell your fucking data like they do with normal Gmail accounts. The reason why is they're charging you to use these services. And so they don't have to, right? First of all. Second of all, they pride themselves on the security of their client data, especially for a business, you know, that might have some, you know, FERPA information or shit in there, so, or FERPA or fucking, you know, or HIPAA or whatever. You don't know what's going to be in there. So unlike normal email addresses, like Gmail addresses, Google actually does secure. They don't even use the same, it looks like the same system, but it's actually not the same system that normal Gmail addresses are hosted on. It is different. And not to mention that, Microsoft doesn't do the same thing. They're unless you have like a government license, your shit's probably getting spied on, for one. For two, at least Google Workspace shit fucking works and is solid and stable, unlike fucking Microsoft over here. It's just a clusterfuck, and they're constantly changing everything, which makes it more of a clusterfuck. And yet people keep going back to Microsoft. Why do you keep going back to Microsoft? There are better solutions out there right now. And again, you're thinking, well, Ben, what if we don't have a solution for this, we don't have a solution for that? You all need to start getting creative, all right? People act like they got to subcontract every little thing out because they can't come up with good ideas anymore. Or I don't know. I mean, people have legitimately lost the ability to use their brains and get creative. There was a time that people spun up whole networks on MS-DOS and fucking, if they even were using Windows yet. And DOS did not come with all these pre-built-in tools and shit to do all this shit. You had to find, there were whole companies back then, you know, Novell NetWare and shit like that, that were solving the problems, right? You know, and then Microsoft ran them out of town. I mean, there was literally tons of different companies with all these different solutions, you know. And I realize that as things get modern and move on, these things are more and more simplified, so we don't need whole companies doing this anymore. But I mean, that's my argument with Microsoft. Windows is just a desktop class operating system. That's solved. Linux desktops do just as good, if not better. We don't need the Windows Explorer shell anymore. We have open source alternatives that literally do the job fucking better. And are more stable. Literally more stable than Windows 11 is. And for the networking solutions that we might not have, you know, and again, if you think, and you say, well, Ben, go back to domain thing. Well, Microsoft doesn't really, Linux doesn't have a good variant for domain controller and client kind of solution, where you have like a Windows server running Active Directory domain services and group policy, and applying group policy across all these computers. Well, guess what? Microsoft doesn't really have a good solution for that either. Active Directory domain services and group policy, god damn, it works maybe, if you're lucky, half the time. But the policies in group policy are so dog shit old that Windows 11 doesn't respond in the same way that Windows 7 used to, or Windows XP or whatever. Really, Windows 7 was the last decent operating system that could be actually really well used with group policy. That was the last one. Windows 8, 8.1, 10, and 11 have all genuinely sucked since. The camera's starting to fall. I've been doing this too long in my car. But, no, hold on one second. Anyways, my point is, get away from Windows. Stop using Microsoft Windows. Stop using Microsoft products entirely. There are open source alternatives, and you know what? You know how we're going to drive the market elsewhere? We're going to push for different things. That's the problem, is people have literally lost the ability, and again, this goes for more than just computer shit, but people have lost the ability to just say fucking no. I mean, there were plenty of massive companies back in the day when Microsoft was getting started that are dead now because people were like, dude, you've gotten too huge and you got a conglomerate and you just fucking suck now. Your services suck. We're moving on to these smaller companies that do a better job than you because they actually care about the product. You do that, and Microsoft will actually, they're going to have to compete if they're going to survive. See, Microsoft right now, you're allowing them to get away without competition. Even though they kind of do have competition, but people are just refusing to pay attention to the competition that is out there, where it is, that, Microsoft, they didn't have to worry about it. That's why they go Microsoft is just, they suck at Windows 11. And people complain about Microsoft products. They shouldn't even be complaining about it. That's my point. You should, okay, fine. Yeah, Windows 11 sucks. Then stop using it. Well, what are my options? Switch to Linux. Or get a Mac. There are options. Well, all those options suck. Well, apparently not as, but do they suck as bad as Windows 11 does? So you're saying you're complaining about Windows 11, but you're not going, but it's apparently still good enough for you to use. Or Windows 10 end of life with no support. I mean, that's just dumb. Again, Windows 10 was a shitty OS anyway. It was just like Windows 11 was. It's just deprecated now, so Microsoft hasn't made changes to it in a while. So people have gotten used to the latest build that's been out for a couple of years now that hasn't seen a feature upgrade in probably almost 2 years. And so, yeah, now people are okay with Windows 10 because, we can modify it, do this, that, whatever, blah, 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 or we can, we know it well enough now at least, right? Well, you know what? Linux Mint, you don't have to worry about that. They don't make changes like that, and when they do, it's the community basically agreeing to that we need this change in the OS. We need this improvement, whatever. Every time, when Linux updates are great. You enjoy them. Oh, I've got a better driver now. My hardware works better. Oh, I've got or this feature works better. They're usually a good thing. Almost always a good thing. Almost always are Windows updates and upgrades a bad thing. But yet people still choose that product. Is capitalism working? Seriously, is capitalism working? Because if it is, people are not taking advantage of it. If capitalism were actively being respected right now, we would not be using Windows. We would be giving Microsoft the finger, switching to different products because, Microsoft, at one time, you were doing great, not anymore. But we're not. We're not respecting the fact that I guess we just refuse to accept that it just sucks now and we need to move on. And again, Microsoft, they're going to change the moment you start using if their market share is drastically falling, or especially if corporations are moving away from them, which by the way we are starting to see. Whole governments, I think, was it Germany? I think both Germany and France, I believe, I know at least Germany has actually completely moved away from using anything Windows or Microsoft in their environments. They're all open source now. Lowe's. Next time you're in a Lowe's store, peek around, don't get in trouble or nothing. Don't fuck around with it or nothing. But peek at the kiosks, or like not say the kiosks, but I guess that too. But look at the computers that like those workstations people like sit down, like, you know, if you're in like a hardware section and employees have their little computers out there on the sales floor. Those are Linux. And by the way, Lowe's they have their own like internal Linux distribution they built, and they've been using that same one. They've just with minor updates on it since I've been going to Lowe's as a kid. I've always seen that. Lowe's can do it. Other governments can do it. That's what I'm saying. Oh, there's no one-stop solution for a domain controller environment. Well, then build one. Build one. With scripts, and then you can plug those scripts into a UI if you must. This isn't impossible. It's just that you probably suck at that. So you're not going to do that. I mean, I don't know. I would. If I were running my business, I wouldn't invest in Microsoft. It's expensive for no reason. But I don't know. I feel like people are at a point now where it's not with computers or with anything in life right now that we feel like we have to accept things as they are. No, we don't. We can stand up and fight against crap. As in just simply saying, no, I'm no longer interested in purchasing Microsoft services. Thanks. You guys were good for a while. You tanked, and now I'm going to switch over here. Let me know when you get better again. And they will. I guarantee you, enough corporations and people leave them, and just to survive, they will do everything they can to fix this. Or if they don't, then fine. But Microsoft thinks that they can't do any wrong. Therefore, that's why all their products suck, because you guys keep paying them. Every time they raise the price on licensing, every time they make licensing a living hell for 365, people keep doing it. I don't know of any other vendor that is like I used to work in an MSP before I did what I do now, my current job. The moment vendors would pull this shit, that any of this, one of the horrible things that Microsoft does, we would cut them out of our business. No, we're not okay with that. We're switching to somebody else. Microsoft was the one company that we would get complaints from customers. Why are you raising our prices on our licensing? Why are you doing, or making us sign a document saying that if we buy a 365 license, even if we no longer get license, we've gotten rid of someone in our organization, we're still on the hook for that license for the rest of that remaining year. And we're like, we can't help you. It's Microsoft. They make the rules. They don't. Microsoft does not make the rules. It's just that people refuse to accept that they shouldn't be using Microsoft. I don't know what it is. You know what? Well, what about Microsoft Office? Guys, LibreOffice or OnlyOffice. Oh my God. Fantastic office suites. Can, by the way, read and write all the Microsoft stuff. It's not like you're using that and you can't use Microsoft. No, it supports all the Microsoft formats. OnlyOffice is specifically designed to be a Microsoft Office. It looks just like the modern Office versions do. And it's specifically designed to read and write and be 100% compatible while being a free open source solution to 365 or on-prem Office applications. But we struggle to put... I say that one because I think that's impressive. That they're going that length to match a product line so they can basically give Microsoft a finger and say, no, you all suck and we're going to try to do your job correctly. I mean, but nobody supports them. It's frustrating. And they're free. You don't have to pay a dime for this stuff. Why, as a business owner, would you choose to pay, especially if you have multiple employees, honestly, at the end of the day, thousands of dollars for literal fucking Office Suite software when you could just download and use free shit that's probably better. No, it is better. I don't understand this. You wonder why small businesses fail these days, because they're guilted into thinking they have to. No, guys, no. I plan to start a small business here, and honestly, my YouTube channel is part of that a little bit. And I'm telling you right now, I don't fuck with that shit. I use free tools. Or if I have to pay for something, it's going to be honestly, it's going to be the less expensive one, or the one that just makes sense. And if it's the more expensive option, it's because it makes sense. Not because it's more expensive, or because, oh, it's just the better it's just the version everybody else uses. God, people are such sheep these days. It's insane. Everywhere. It's not just with politics, or it's with everything now. Dude, go against the norm. Go against the norm, and support other diversity and support other things. People are so scared of change these days, or doing something that falls outside of the. I mean, people are get quiet. You're at work and you say something that might be a little bit against the norm, and people don't have a response. They just get quiet around you. For the smallest things, by the way. And it's like, I don't fucking understand why. It's like, it's not even a big deal. Just do what is the right thing to do. That's it. And people think, well, if I'm not submitting to the rest of the world and doing what everybody else is doing, I'm not doing the right thing. No, you're actually doing the very wrong thing if you do everything that everybody else is doing. Be yourself. Be your authentic self. I don't usually like saying that because I still struggle with myself, but I'll tell you, I get that more and more now. And if Microsoft's not your authentic self, don't be fucking with that shit, man. All right, guys. There's not much more I wanted to rant about this one tonight, so we're going to leave that as it is. And I thank you guys for checking me out. I'll do a lot more of this stuff, these little rants. I'll also do some actual videos. I've thought about maybe making a video about like some of the foods I make, to get through the shit of our, the shit times we're in right now. Just if you're interested in that, the car I'm sitting in right now needs some love. It needs a couple things done to it. I might make some videos on that. Not sure yet. Otherwise, guys, I make these videos, what I'm doing right now, every single weeknight, maybe weekends. I'm not sure yet about that, but yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you in the next one.